Namaste all, and welcome to our continuing series on the life divine with our beloved Ranga. We're in an interesting passage today on the mind plane, and we begin on page 748 with the line above this level. And we did the summary last time.
So we have to remember the chapter is the evolutionary process, ascent and integration. So Swami is describing to us the steps of evolution. Okay. So first he has told us that the starting point of evolution is the inconscient. From there the manifestation of matter comes up, and from matter then comes out life, and from life comes out mind. But now he has described to us mind, three levels of the mind. When the mind mixes with matter, that is one. Then when the mind mixes with the vital, that is another. And when the mind doesn't mix with anything and stands by itself pure.
Can this be understood by science without any knowledge of the divine?
Yes, because we'll explain what is meant by pure mind. Okay, so when I am trying to understand the motives of your action, okay, my vital is coming in because, Narad is capable of that, that's why he is doing this. Vital is coloring my mind. So that's not the pure mind. The pure mind is one that is concerned with problems where only intellectual problems. Okay? So science is concerned with that.
Yes.
Okay? It wants to know the secret of matter. There is no question of the vital coming in. But sometimes preconceived ideas do come in. And also, for instance, when a scientist is observing the behavior of animals, okay? Let's see, he is in Africa and he is looking at a lion going to jump on a deer and going to eat it up. Okay? His vital will come in with sympathy for the deer. That's not pure mind at all. His vital is interfering with the process of observing what's happening. So pure mind is where you are interested in knowledge pure without the intervention of mind and without also your preferences and even your laziness also will not come in. For instance, when an astronomer is looking at the stars and wondering what is its role, these are questions of pure thought. Vital is not coming in. That's a pure mind. So that's why those who have the pure mind are capable of being a philosopher, a scientist, a sage, okay, one who is intellectual. So that can happen. So we'll read Srinath has told us about the two steps, the physical mind and the vital mind.
But it is still not higher mind.
Not yet. Higher mind is spiritual mind.
Right.
That goes beyond manifestation. There is the field of manifestation in which you have matter, life and mind. So mind in the lower hemisphere, it's not spiritual knowledge. Pure mind is not spiritual knowledge.
Good.
It's intellectual activity.
Yes.
That's a phone. So, I am reading the summary of the previous para. Next in the mental range is the life mind or the vital mind. He has spoken about the physical mind. The physical mind, we have said, is the manas, that which interprets the senses and makes you get fixed to the facts of physical life. You observe things and you do whatever has to be needed. That's the physical mind. But this is the vital mind, when desire comes in. Okay, so next in the mental range is the life mind or the vital mind. It is higher and deeper than the physical mind. The physical mind corresponds to matter. The vital mind corresponds to the life plane in the universe, which is universal, and also in the human being, which is the individual vital mind, which is superior and subtler plane above the material. Its nature is vitality, energy, drive to expand, to succeed, to conquer, to possess. It is supported by the subliminal inner vital. Now, subliminal also we have discussed yesterday, the intraconscient. You can go either horizontally into yourself or you can rise above into the spiritual planes of consciousness. So, when you go horizontally into yourself, all sorts of psychic powers come in, but they are not spiritual. For instance, take that gentleman who can look at spoons and bend them. This is because something from the inner vital is coming and he is getting that power to do that. But ask him why it is coming, how it is coming, he says, I don't know. The knowledge may not be there, but the capacity to have psychic view points of view, ESP, extrasensory perception. These come in when you go into your inner subliminal.
Can it be called a siddhi? Can it be called a siddhi?
What is the last word I didn't follow?
Siddhi. Siddhi.
Oh. Usually the word siddhi is not applied to these things. The siddhi is when you go into the spiritual planes of consciousness and you get the 8 siddhis. So that is the, but it's a question of nomenclature. You can say that there is siddhi of, if I can look into your mind and know your thoughts, okay, that is siddhi, and that is also possible in the intraconscient. So it's a question of nomenclature, just a question of what you call it. But the West calls it ESP, extrasensory perception. Okay, is that spiritual? It depends on what you want to call it. so the universal plane. It is supported by the subliminal inner vital. The subliminal and the intraconscient and the inner is the same. It's when you go deep into yourself at a horizontal level. It's like going into your own house, into the kitchen garden, because it's open to the sky. And open to the sky means you are in touch with the universal. So what's going on in the universal you can see. That's the intraconscient. You're not going up, you're going inwards. The physical mind corresponds to matter, the vital mind corresponds to the life plane in the universe, which is the superior and subtler plane above the material. Its nature is vitality, energy, drive to expand, to succeed, to conquer, to possess. It is supported by the subliminal inner vital. Therefore, the vital mind can get into touch with the universal life plane. It looks at the physical world as its playground, its backyard field for its own activity. It aims always at satisfaction, fulfillment, and its desires, its wants, needs, ambitions. The inner life mind that supports the outer vital mind does not need the physical senses because it uses the subtle senses, the manas. That also we have discussed yesterday, the other day. You can take something in your hand, and if that capacity of the inner vital is there, you can tell accurately the weight of what is in your hand. Or as I said, you get in touch with some object which a person has used and you know his condition. That also is possible. If man identifies with the inner vital mind, then the inner life becomes for him more real than the physical world. Okay, so the man who lives in the vital mind rather than in the physical mind becomes the man of desire, sensation, passion, ambition, action, push for experience. Note all these words are neutral. They can be either good or bad. Okay, so desire can be good and bad. Sensation also, passion can be also good and bad. You can have a passion for an ideal. Okay, ambition, they can also be good and ego-based. Push for experience. He can become the adventurer, the explorer, the seeker for new experience. He can become the breaker of bonds, the rejecter of the old and the past, champion of a cause. He can become the artist, the poet. Kinesis, force, drive are his nature. This is the vital mind. Now we come to the pure mind. So, above this level of vital mentality, and yet more inly extended, is the mind plane of pure thought and intelligence, to which the things of the mental world are the most important realities. Those who are under its influence, the philosopher, thinker, scientist, intellectual creator, the man of the idea, the man of the written or spoken word. So, the man of the written or spoken word, one who is a writer or a poet. The idealist, the dreamer, are the present mental being at his highest, at its summit. So, he has given you examples of who has a pure mind. This mental man has his life part, his life of passions and desires and ambitions and life hopes of all kinds, and his lower sensational and physical existence. He is conscious of his body and his vital. And this lower part can often equibalance or weigh down his nobler mental element, so that although it is the highest portion of him, it does not become dominant and formative in his whole nature. So, even the mental man is sometimes limited by his vital desires and his physical being also. So, but this is not typical of him in his greatest development, for there the vital and physical are controlled and subjected by the thinking will and intelligence. The mind can control the vital but not transform it. So, when you tell someone you are prone to anger, get rid of your anger, it's not that easy. It can't be done immediately. To be able to do that, you have to go to the higher plane of consciousness. So long as you are in the field of Prakriti, your nature will dominate you. But the mind can control it, suppress it, but not cure it. But still you have to tell people who are getting very angry, you have to tell them, try to control yourself. The mind can control to a certain extent.
Can control but not
Control to a certain extent, but not really control, but suppress it or keep it suppressed. Keep it suppressed. Okay. But the suppression can come from many other ways also. Suppose you are very weak, okay, and anger is there in you, but you are so weak that you can't express it. It doesn't mean to say that he is controlling his, okay, he is too weak to express himself. So, this mental man, that we read, okay, so the mental man cannot transform his nature, very clear, okay, he can't transform his nature, but he can control and harmonize it and lay on it the law of a mental ideal, impose a balance or a sublimating and refining influence, okay, and give a high consistency to the multi-personal confusion and conflict of the summary patchwork of our divided and half-constructed being. Now, this last bit, we have to be very clear what he is saying, and give a high consistency to the multi-personal confusion and conflict. What is that? The body is having an effect on your mind. The vital is having an effect on your mind. Okay? So, suppose you have played a very hard game of football and you have to, the student has to give a homework next day and he has to do mental work. But the body is saying, I am too tired. So, the body is influencing the mind. So, that happens very often. Okay? So, he is not absent. This is what is multi-personal confusion. The physical and the vital are confusing the mental. That's what he means by multi-personal confusion, yes, and conflict. Yes. The mind says, no, I should sit down and study. But the body says, you can't do it. Even if you try, you won't be able to do it. conflict is there. Okay? The vital also says, let's go out today and have a beer. Okay? But the mind says, no, I can't do that. It's going to harm me. So there is a conflict. So that's what he's saying. The word using multi-personal confusion and conflict, or the summary patchwork of our divided and half-constructed being. So somehow you manage to have a working harmony. Okay, that's what Swami means by summary patchwork. Somehow you manage to. It's not really harmony at all, but it is. You accept that yes, these problems are there. He can be, but the mental man, he can be the observer and governor of his own mind and life, can consciously develop them and become to that extent a self-creator. Now note very carefully, Sridhar is saying he can be the observer and governor of his own mind and life. He is not saying body. Okay? So the body, it's impossible to control the body. What controls the body? Your hormones. It is they that control even your vital reactions. We know very well that the hormones are, we know that, for instance, the adrenal glands are the kidneys. Okay? When you suddenly you come across a situation where there is fear, it's the adrenal glands that pump their products into the bloodstream, and then you become alert. So your whole physical character is being controlled by chemicals in the body. There is a truth to it. It's true. When we were students, okay, doing biology, our biology teacher took a frog, okay, and cut it and took out the heart, a beautiful small thing like that, and he put it on a hook. And then he showed us, I am putting salt solution on it. He put 2 drops of salt water on it, and the heart started beating fast. Then he changed the chemical and put some potassium or something, and the heart started becoming slow. Okay? So it is these chemicals which control you. So you don't have any control of your body. The body controls you. Swami has eliminated the body. Okay? But
was it Sunil?
No, it was not Sunila. It was Shottabrato. Amita's, he used to teach us biology.
Yes.
But we used to have other teachers also for biology. It's very interesting. You don't know perhaps, but there was a gentleman who was very famous. He had gone to China. Okay, Dr. Kotnis. Dr. Kotnis was the one. He was a doctor, and he went to China during that war. China, there was a war, civil war also was there at one time. The Japanese also were there. So he was there, he got married to a Chinese and he was there. And Dr. Kotnis's friend was Dr. Cholkar. And Cholkar was our teacher for biology. He used to go and get from the market livers, okay, lungs, and cut them, or even he used to tell us to blow into the esophagus, the trachea, so that you can see the. So, I'm straying a little bit, but it's interesting.
In ashram school.
In our school, yes.
In ashram.
Yeah. I don't know if they do that now, biology, but anyway, we used to do that. So, you really come to know the things. He even asked us to blow into the trachea. So this Swami is describing the pure mind, which is not always pure, but you can to a great extent make it a pure mind, and with that control, not transform, your vital and your mind also you can control to a certain extent. But you can't absolutely make it perfect. For that you have to go up. You need light and knowledge to be able to transform your vital. I read the summary and then we go to the next para. Above the vital mind is a pure mind. To a man living at this level, ideas, thoughts, mental perceptions, ideals are more real and more important than the things of the physical world. He becomes the philosopher, the idealist, the thinker, the scientist, the writer, the intellectual creator. This is the pure mind. But he too has his vital elements, desires, passions, and these can hamper his mental activities and pull him down to a more earthy level. Okay? But the best of this class control their vital, their emotions, and bring a harmony to the usually various warring members of his being. The various warring members of a being, mind, vital and body. They are constantly at loggerheads with each other. Okay. He can observe himself, develop himself, and self-create himself anew. He can develop himself, and with the mind he can also evolve. He can self-create himself. Okay, we go to the next para. This mind of pure intelligence, so we can use the word pure mind, because sometimes they use the word pure twice. Pure intelligence is saying, and above also he has used the word pure thought, mind plane of pure thought. So only thought, not any emotions. Okay. In science it's very important to not let your emotions come into the picture. So that's why the scientist has at least the ideal of a pure mind. This, we have to read this one. This mind of pure intelligence has behind it our inner or subliminal mind, which senses directly all the things of the mind plane, is open to the action of a world of mental forces, and can feel the ideative and other imponderable influences which act upon the material world and the life plane, but which at present we can only infer and cannot directly experience. These intangibles and imponderables are to the mental man real and patent, and he regards them as truths demanding to be realized in our or the earth's nature. Now, this is a huge sentence, but we'll go a little into detail. Okay, so this mind of pure intelligence has behind it our inner or subliminal mind. So, just now as we discussed, you think you are body, mind, life, but behind you, if you go into yourself, there is the intraconscient or the inner mind, inner vital, inner physical. Inner physical is a subtle physical. So, there it is. If you have the capacity to go into that, you will be able to see mental thoughts, other thoughts coming, other mental forces coming. There can be personal mental thoughts, there can also be universal mental thoughts. Okay. There can be all these type of thoughts, waves are there, you will have to see them, and you will be able to see also their action on you or others. You will be able to foresee these things. That's what Shailesh is saying. And these things you don't need to see with your senses. You are seeing them, Shailesh uses the word directly. When he uses the word directly means without the physical senses. I can actually see that thought, and I know what it's going to do. It's going to enter into that person. Okay? And you can, to a certain extent, control these also, their entry into yourself, or their barring them from entering into you, these forces. That's what Shailesh is saying. Okay, so, which senses directly all the things of the mind plane. Mind plane, the universal mind plane, is open to the action of a world of mental forces. In the world of mind, all these forces are there, and you can feel them, and can feel the ideative or other imponderable influences. Imponderable because they are not physical, they are subtle. So you can see these subtle forces, although they are not. For instance, we can't see X-rays, okay, but the machines can sense that because of vibrations. So we should develop ourselves in such a way that we are capable of vital vibrations, sensing vital vibrations. I will be able to feel the emotions of others, and similarly, if I can feel the mental vibrations, I will be able to see the thoughts of others also. So that's a capacity of the inner mind. Okay, that's what he's saying. And can feel the ideative and other imponderable influences which act upon the material world. We should not think that these forces are not acting in you. They enter into you and make you feel that your own thoughts. So these things do exist. Just as the internet is sending all its information into your computer. You are not even conscious how it is coming in. In the same way, the vibrations of the mental world can come into you and make you think that this is what you are thinking. Okay, so and act upon the world mental and the life plane, but which at present we can only infer, not see, okay, and cannot directly experience. These intangibles and imponderables, again, because they are mental, they are intangible, you cannot touch them, nor can you imponderables, they are not physical, are to the mental man real and patent, and he regards them as truths demanding to be realized in our or the earth's nature. So, either in your, or there can be sometimes you have the time spirit. The time spirit wants to materialize certain forces. And then you have the French Revolution, for instance. Okay, that was the idea that now it is time. The time spirit wants ideally the ideals of equality, fraternity, and liberty. Liberty, equality, fraternity. The three things. So there is a time spirit. That's why Sridhar is also mentioning the Earth's nature. Not only in you individually, but also Earth's nature. There are forces that want to come. That's what happened also in Russia. There is a time spirit which says that it's now time to try and bring equality everywhere. Okay, so that's why I said Earth nature. On the inner mind plane and mind soul independent, and the mind soul independent of the body, can become to us an entire reality, and we can consciously live in them as much as in the body. Now, this is very interesting what he is saying. On the mental plane, on the inner plane, mind and mind soul, independent of body. So there is a mind soul. Let's say, Manomaya Purusha, the mental Purusha. The consciousness which is coming from down becomes of the nature of the plane to which it is descending. So when the consciousness from the highest comes into the mind plane, it becomes the mental Purusha. Then when it goes into the vital, in the animal, it becomes the vital Purusha. When it goes into the physical consciousness also is Annamaya Purusha. Annamaya Purusha, Pranamaya Purusha, Manomaya Purusha. Vijnanamaya Purusha and then Anandamaya Purusha. It goes on. That's why he's saying the soul independent of the body. So the soul independent of the body is the mind soul. The consciousness will become part of the soul, the mind soul. Okay. Thus, to live in mind and the things of the mind, to be an intelligence rather than a life and a body, is our highest position, short of spirituality, in the grades of nature. The mental man, the man of a self-dominating and self-formative mind and will, conscious of an ideal and turned towards its realization, the high intellect, the thinker, the sage, less kinetic and immediately effective than the vital man, who is the man of action and outer swift life fulfillment, but as powerful and eventually even more powerful to open new vistas to the race, is the normal summit of nature's evolutionary formation on the human plane. Now, what Sridhar is saying is that normally the mental man is less effective in life than the vital man, because the mind has not developed enough power as much as the vital man has got power in the physical world. But ultimately, Sridhar is saying eventually even more powerful. So when the mind is developed fully, the power that the mind has is superior to the vital power. So he can do things which the vital man can't do. Sridhar is sitting in Pondicherry and determining events in Europe, in Ireland,
Yes.
okay, in Turkey. All these are well-known things. So less kinetic and immediately effective, okay, than the vital man. By the way, less kinetic and immediately less effective. You have to repeat the word. Okay. Srebdo often eliminates words which he uses once, and you have to apply it to every other. So you have to read very carefully. Okay. Because if you say less kinetic and immediately effective, it's contradictory. If you are less kinetic, how will you be more effective? So you have to repeat the word less. Less kinetic and immediately less effective than the vital man, who is the man of action and outer swift life. So this was simply saying that the mental man in many ways not as successful as the vital man in life, but ultimately he will be more powerful. These 3 degrees of mentality, clear in themselves but most often mixed in our composition, are to our ordinary intelligence only psychological types that happen to have developed, and we do not discover any other significance in them. The 3 degrees are what we have just now seen last time and this time: the physical mind, the vital mind, and the pure mind. These are the 3 degrees of mentality, clear in themselves but most often mixed in our composition. Can we always say that this is a pure thought? Sometimes we feel that your desire is coloring your thinking. So there is a mixture of the vital and the... Even the body has got its own needs. Okay? So there is a mixture. So that mixture, what Srimati is saying, is not always very clear. Most often mixed in our composition are to our ordinary intelligence only psychological types that happen to have developed, and we do not discover any other significance in them. So it's his nature to be like that. But they are certainly saying very clearly there are 3 steps. If you go to the higher level of consciousness, you will be able to see these: the physical, the vital, and the mental. You will be able to see them clearly and separate. Okay. But in fact, they are full of significance, for they are the steps of nature's evolution of mental being towards its self-exceeding. And as thinking mind is the highest step she can now attain, the perfected mental man is the rarest and highest of her normal human creatures. To go farther, she has to bring into the mind and make active in mind, life, and body the spiritual principle. So, the physical, the vital is something slightly better, the mental is slightly better, and if you want to go even beyond the mind, it goes into the spiritual field.
She.
Yeah, she is nature. See, the word nature is there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines from the bottom, nature is there. Yeah. So she means nature. Yeah. So you have to see, it's very good you raised the question, because that's exactly how you have to read. From where does the she come up suddenly? It's nature which is doing that. Okay. So, again we read the summary. Yeah. It's interesting what you're saying, so I'll tell you one. So, one gentleman referred to me a problem in synthesis. He's in the ashram only. And he said, Srimati is saying here, he's beginning the paragraph with secondly. The very first. Where is spoken of the first? I said, go back 3 paras. You will see first is mentioning there, then here second. And the third comes after 2 more paras. You have to read Srimati globally. You have to see exactly how it's developing. That's what our mathematics teacher, Venkatraman, he used to come from Madurai. He's a brilliant man. He used to examine theses, research papers he used to, in mathematics. So he was a brilliant man. He used to say, normal people write sentence by sentence. Sometimes people write paragraph by paragraph. Srimati writes chapter by chapter. That you have to keep in mind. So, she is a very simple example of only 5 lines above, but sometimes you have to go 2 chapters behind. Okay, so I am reading the summary. Just as the vital mind is supported subliminally by the inner vital or the prana purusha, similarly, the pure mind or intelligence is backed in the intraconscient by the mental purusha. You can call it the inner mind, you can call it the true mind, you can call it the mental soul, you can call it the mental Purusha, or you can call it also in Indian language Manomaya Purusha. Okay. Yeah. These intangibles and imponderables, unreal to the normal man, are very real to him, and he tries to realize these ideas and ideals. The mental man is the most developed being in the terrestrial nature, barring the spiritual man. In immediate circumstances of the present, the vital man with his dynamism is more successful than the mental man, who is less kinetic. But ultimately, the force and extent of the mental man is far superior because he builds in himself power in many fields. He becomes the thinker, the sage, the intellectual. These 3 degrees of the mental range are physical mind, vital mind, pure mind. Though clear and well defined, they appear to the outer nature to be mixed and not separated, and their identities do not seem to be very important. On the contrary, they are most significant because they indicate precisely the 3 steps of the evolutionary ascent from the lower grades to the higher. This status of the pure mind is the highest in the lower hemisphere. The lower hemisphere is mind, life, body. The higher hemisphere is the spiritual planes of consciousness. And the third plane is the supermental and the unmanifest. So, the lower hemisphere is mind, life, body. Universal as well as individual. Okay. We'll go to the next para.
Yes, we have time.
For these are her evolutionary figures built out of the surface mentality. What are these? The 3 degrees. Okay. To do more, she has to use more amply the unseen material hidden below our surface, to dive inwards and bring out the secret soul, the psyche, or to ascend above our normal mental level into planes of intuitive consciousness, dense with light, derived from the spiritual gnosis, ascending planes of pure spiritual mind, in which we are in direct contact with the infinite, in touch with the self and highest reality of things, Satchidananda. In ourselves, behind our surface natural being, there is a soul, an inner mind, an inner life part which can open to these heights as well as to the occult spirit within us. And this double opening is the secret to a new evolution. By that breaking of lids and walls and boundaries, the consciousness rises to a greater ascent and a larger integration, which, as the evolution of mind has mentalized, so will, by this new evolution, spiritualize all the powers of our nature. For the mental man has not been nature's last effort or highest reach, though he has been, in general, more fully evolved in his own nature than those who have achieved themselves below or aspired above him. She has pointed out, note interestingly, she. Srimati is continuing with the she, okay, from the last para. Okay, so. Yeah, for the mental man has not been nature's last effort or highest, though he has been in general more fully evolved in his own nature than those who have achieved themselves below or aspired above him. She has pointed man to a yet higher and more difficult level, inspired him with the ideal of a spiritual living, begun the evolution in him of a spiritual being. The spiritual man is her supreme supernormal effort of human creation. For having evolved the mental creator, thinker, sage, prophet of an ideal, the self-controlled, self-disciplined, harmonized mental being, she has tried to go higher and deeper within and call out into the front the soul and the inner mind and heart, call down from above the forces of the spiritual mind and higher mind and overmind and create under their light and their influence the spiritual sage, seer, prophet, God lover, yogin, Gnostic, Sufi, mystic. So, Srimad now use the words higher mind, okay, and he has also used the word overmind and the spiritual mind. And also he has called it dense light. So, this para is describing to you when you go above the mind. When your mind becomes, you can watch your mind with all the thoughts going on. But they are not affecting you. There was a gentleman here who had the experience of the Brahman. And he was a close friend of mine. So, I asked him, what are you seeing? Is your mind silent? He says, the mind is not silent, but I am silent and I am looking at the mind having the thoughts. Okay? The mind thoughts are there, but they have no effect on me. They are just ripples. They are not waves. They are just ripples on the surface of the mind.
I asked this question to Temi, and I said, have you been able to achieve the silent mind? And she said, no, the thoughts come, but I pay no attention to them and they go out.
Yeah, that is Swami calls it. There are degrees of this.
Yes.
There are silent mind, calm mind,
Yes.
peaceful mind. Swami got various stages. So Temi told you that. Temi told you that. They come and they just pass away without affecting you.
Yeah, she doesn't bother with them at all.
That means she has the capacity of watching the thoughts. That is something. Okay, we read the summary of what we just now read. The mental man is nature's highest achievement on the surface. Okay, on the surface. In the lower hemisphere. For further development, nature has to go below, discover the nether secrets, go inwards and discover the secret soul, psychic being, go upwards and discover the cosmic self, the Atman. Above mind, she must ascend to the higher mind and the illumined mind. These are worlds dense with light, which has been bestowed on them by the gnosis, the supramental. Supramental is sending its force and they are dense with light. Interesting description. The two doors to a spiritual life are the psychic being deep within and the universal self above. When the lids and barriers are broken, these two spiritual doorways initiate a new evolution. Mental man is not nature's last product. The spiritual man is nature's supreme, supernormal achievement. After having created the thinker, the sage, the prophet, the self-controlled and self-disciplined, harmonized mental being, nature exceeds herself and goes higher, self, Atman, and deeper, psychic being. She creates a spiritual sage, seer, prophet, God lover, yogin, Gnostic, Sufi, mystic. So this is what Shabda is saying, that there are two doorways to the spiritual life. One is to go inward. That normally gives you devotion and love for the divine when you contact your psychic being. When you go above, you get knowledge. You may not get emotion. In fact, in Sri Aurobindo experience, there is no emotion at all. It was pure knowledge, peace, calm, sense of infinity. But no emotion at all. Nothing was touching him. This is man's only way? Yes, it's a smart one. This is man's only way of true self-exceeding. What is it? The spiritual life. For so long as we live in the surface being and found ourselves wholly on matter, it is impossible to go higher and vain to expect that there can be any new transition of a radical character in our evolutionary being. The vital man, the mental man, have had an immense effect upon the earth life. They have carried humanity forward from the mere human animal to what it is now. But it is only within the bounds of the already established evolutionary formula of the human being that they can act. They can enlarge the human circle, but not change or transform the principle of consciousness or its characteristic operation. Any attempt to heighten inordinately the mental or exaggerate inordinately the vital man, the Nietzschean supermanhood, for example, can only colossalize. Chandra is using the word colossalize. I don't know if it exists, but we understand very clearly what he is saying. Okay, he often does this.
Make it vast.
Yeah. Colossal is big, vast. Okay. So, colossalize the human creature. It cannot transform or divinize him. A different possibility opens if we can live within, in the inner being, and make it the direct ruler of life, or station ourselves on the spiritual and intuitive planes of being, and from there, and by their power, transmute our nature. So, transformation of your nature is not possible unless you go up or you go inwards. The psychic can transform your nature, the self also can transform your nature, but if you are in your only body, mind, life, impossible to change your nature. I read the summary of this short para. The only way man can exceed himself is by spiritualizing himself. Okay? So, this should make us think a little bit that we have to be very understanding and sympathetic to those who have very thorny, edgy characters. Somebody who gets angry all the time, or somebody who is very impatient. So, we should try to be very calm. That is how he is built. We have to take it that way and not criticize him or find fault with him. Everybody has got faults. Not a single person is without any fault. So, we have to tolerate. You cannot transform yourself. Nobody can. Unless you spiritualize yourself.
But when teachers complained of an unruly child, mother was positive about him.
Yes, that's right, because she's seeing the inner part.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And she had the power to put into that child whatever had to be done. She was doing that. I remember there were some children, and once that boy is still living in the ashram. So when he was a little kid, mother tied his mouth with a handkerchief or something and made him sit in the playground. So she used to take the right measures because she can see the potentiality as well as the outer nature. So the only way man can exceed himself is by spiritualizing himself. Spiritual life implies living deep within in the intraconscient, or living above in the superconscient, but definitely not in the outer superficial nature. If you are limited only to your body, mind, life, you cannot change it. The vital man and the mental man have taken huge strides and changed earthly life dramatically from the animal. They can expand horizontally, but they cannot extend their outer nature. They cannot exceed their outer nature. They can improve, enlarge their activities, but it would be a growth of egoistic life, not a spiritual life. This growth could produce the Nietzschean Superman, but what is needed is a supramental Superman. This means a qualitative transformation, not a quantitative one. Okay? For this to happen, spiritualization is essential. This living within in the subliminal being, quite clearly separated from the outer nature of body, life and mind. Only then can the spiritual, egoless cosmic Superman take birth. So you too.
In a time frame, when did Sri Aurobindo stop writing Life Divine?
Stop?
Writing the Life Divine.
No, he revised the Life Divine was written entirely in the Arya.
But he revised it
Yeah, he revised it in the 40s.
in the
He revised
40s.
it. The book has got at the bibliography at the end. They explain that he added, expanded some, and added a few things also that he did. But he could have gone on even more, okay? Because in 1950s, 48, 49, 50, when the physical education started, Mother asked him to write articles about the supramental body.
Yes.
And he wrote those articles. So that is far above the,
Yes.
he has gone far beyond the,
I have read them all.
yeah.
Yeah.
His description of what the supramental body could be, how it could come into existence, all that is there.
Thank you, Ranga. Namaste all. We'll see you again on Saturday.